A very common sentiment among people right now is that games are getting too big. Back in the early 2010s, open worlds were kind of becoming a big thing. Around the time Skyrim released for the first time, and not the 7th time, we began to see a lot of games move towards these big open worlds, likely due to the effects of Assassin's Creed and some other larger franchises. But as time passed, we began to see this more and more, to the point where video games have so much content in them, but most of it winds up being copy-paste scattered collectibles and random chests with valueless loot in them. So it sounds like I'm saying open world games are very stale, but I'm not really tired of them.
It is 4 times the size of Fallout 4.
Me not being tired of open world games is not the same as me not believing that open world games right now do have a problem and the industry is kind of headed in a bad direction with them. The primary reason people are fed up with these huge games is because every game wants to be one now. What this means is that there are a lot of games that were focused on tight planned level design, and they now become giant hubs where the open world takes away what once was. While Ubisoft really hasn't jumped off open world in almost 10 to 15 years, a lot of their games share this problem where the scale of the world is the focus, and all forms of stealth gameplay that could have heavily benefited from more structured levels and smaller areas to roam ultimately feel just samey. You can't have the AI be too good at detection because that would cause wild difficulty spikes, but having these giant areas means it's still pretty easy to get away from being caught. The problem isn't just that it'll go open world and it'll be too big, it's that a lot of the things that make the games what they were will be gone once they go open world.
It allows us to have 16 times the detail.
And I think this further feeds into why people are tired of open worlds. That fear of who's next. As an example, Monster Hunter is a series that I feel does not need a large open world. I don't want to chase monsters across 7 biomes to catch it. The large open areas of Monster Hunter World are fantastic, and I think the scale could remain relatively similar, and I wouldn't really be bothered. But turning the world into one interconnected zone might just be overdoing things for me. I was pretty much a naysayer about Pokemon going open world. I felt like the linear simplicity of Pokemon was what made it fun. And after Scarlet and Violet and Legends Arceus, I think I'm still feeling the same way. Both of these were fun experiences, but the fun of the game was a bit different. It was less about battling and more about catching, which is fine, but just a bit less engaging for me as a whole. I've heard people ask about other RPGs going open world, and I'm pretty numb to it as a whole. As my channel is primarily focused on Persona, I don't want an open world Persona game. I feel like all that would do is create too much space for no reason. Persona isn't really a game where you need to wander around and explore a lot of areas too much. The way they pack in all that detail into these smaller zones is a lot better than having a big open world with the detail kind of scattered around. And now it sounds like I'm kind of going against my point here, where I was saying that I'm not really tired of open worlds. But I think it's pretty clear where I'm going with this, too.
But this one really is unique.
Open worlds are still something that I like. It wholly depends on how the game utilizes it, though. Games like Spider-Man and Infamous took advantage of these big worlds. Having unique methods of traversal and small tasks like crime fighting littered around the world is a good way to keep your player engaged, especially when you're moving from point A to point B. It's something a lot of open worlds don't really focus on because fast travel exists. Tears of the Kingdom's world serves as an open board for you to get creative with, and tons of puzzles will be there for you to solve with your creativity as well. Elden Ring's world is all about this grand adventure, yet having a decent amount of open space is kind of necessary for its combat design. In general, there are a lot of open world games that still work. I won't deny there's a problem with the industry seeing open world as their inevitable future, but I'm widely happy with a lot of open world games that have come out. While I did criticize Ubisoft before, I think their games are kind of janky enough that the open world can serve as a benefit when you just kind of want to fool around and approach missions recklessly, and in funny and silly ways. I see this not as an issue with open world specifically, but an issue with scale instead. Every game seems to have to be bigger than the last. For some reason, whether it's our expectations or shareholder expectations, video games for some reason can't be just as good as the last. Each one has to be better. When a game is too similar to the last, sometimes it invites criticism, even when the game itself is still good. The thing is that there's so much focus on creating more and making more that it kind of poisoned the open world genre as a whole. I don't need the next game to be 20 times bigger than Skyrim. In fact, it could probably be half or maybe 2/3 of the size, and I'd still have a ton of fun. With open worlds, bigger is not always better, because if you're just creating space for the sake of it, you're forcing it. Sometimes your game is at the perfect size, and who cares if the world is smaller than the last installment? I think that scale and that desire for that larger scale every single time is just creating more issues in the gaming industry.
I read on the internet that our games have had a few bugs.
So in short, I love open world games. They are some of the most fun and satisfying experiences I've had with video games. There are worlds that are so evidently crafted with love and care, and to see the developer's passion go into it is truly inspiring. But the constant desire for bigger and larger scale games is going to continue hurting a lot of games that just don't need that scale. People are tired of it for good reason. And I like them for good reason, but I do also agree with the people who are tired of it. That not every game needs to be open world, not every game needs to be bigger than the last. Sometimes you can have the same size game and it can still be great. And if you think open world games are tiring and overdone, why don't you leave a comment down below and tell me why? And if you agree with me, you could also leave a comment telling me why you agree. You can leave a like if you enjoyed the video, and subscribe to the channel for more things like this. I wanted to talk a little bit more about how scale could be dangerous for the industry in the future, I guess. But I can't really fit it all into this video because time. So maybe that'll be next. Anyways, thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.